Welcome to the Black Belt Business Podcast. My name is Matthew Brenner. And last week we had an episode that was really popular. I got a lot of people who were reaching out to me with comments or my DMs about how to go from $0 at your martial arts school to $1 million with the four phases or four levels of running a martial arts school. So if you didn't catch that episode, make sure to go back, look at the last episode I posted. It's with my brother, Solomon Brenner, who's on here today, the founder of Action Karate, that does over $12 million a year in revenue across our schools, 30 plus locations, 200 plus part-time employees, 60 plus full-time employees that he started in 1994 with his partner, Jacqueline Razai. So you guys are learning from a top 1%, probably top 0.01% in the industry. So if you want to learn how to scale your martial arts school, this is going to be part number 2. If you are I would say, if you are under the 30K a month mark in gross revenue, go listen to part 1. Okay. And then come back and listen to this episode. If you're above the 30K range a month in gross revenue, you could probably start here and be okay. So we're going to dive into this. So as a quick review, I don't want to review everything and waste anyone's time, but level 1 is called the hustler phase. That's when you're at 0 to 10K a month. Level 2 is the builder phase when you're at 10K to 30K a month. Today, we're going to talk about level 3, which is the scaler phase. That means you're doing between 30 and 50K a month in revenue. And then level 4 is the CEO phase between 50K and 83K a month. And each one of these is going to have different responsibilities and different skills that you're going to want to master. Okay, what got you to level 1 is not necessarily going to get you to level 2, which isn't going to get you to level 3 or 4. Some of those things will overlap, but some are going to be different. We're going to break them down today. And then if you're listening to this at any point and you're like, hey, this is really cool, I want to learn more about this, how I get help with growing my staff or my systems, or if you want to learn about organic marketing, find me on Instagram at blackbeltbrenner1 or send me an email, matthew@wdojo.com, and send me an email or DM. I'll be happy to help. All right, so Master Brenner, Professor Brenner, thank you so much for coming on here today.
Pleasure. Can I comment on something you just said? You said, if you want help, call me, whatever. Whether it's you or someone else, of course, I think you're the best.
Thank you.
But I would question if the person does not want help, they should really thinking about why that is. There's like some kind of, like, either they're totally satisfied, which is, in my mind, probably the only reason, like, hey, my school's, exactly where I want it to be. My life is exactly where I want it to be. I'm good. I would agree. Like, keep doing what you're doing. But if you're not, and you're like, I'm just going to figure it out for myself, there's got to be like some reason. We do, like, one of the things that we recommend to a lot of our people, like, within Action Karates, we do a lot of like business coaching. And sometimes it's something like deep down inside of why you're not like reaching out for help, why you're not asking us for help or asking you for help. And it's, we've had people that had fear of success. We've had people that don't believe they deserve it. We've had people that, just need to learn how to cope with stress better, like whatever it is. But like, if you're not, if you want to grow, but you're not asking for help, like, there's over the last 30 years, I don't think there's ever been a time that I haven't had formally like paying for it or informally people that I've reached out to personally, like a mentor or coach in some area. And sometimes the coach that I'm talking to or the person that's mentoring me, like, we might have better metrics in some part of my life or my business. We might be doing, let's say, better revenue, but they have better retention. Where we have better retention, but I go watch their students are just better. So like, or they're better at saving money or investing money. Like, I don't know, like whatever it is, or they're good. Like for you, something to be like, they're doing okay on Facebook, but they're spending a ton of money on it, and they could be doing some socials. We do social, but whatever. But the point is, if you're not asking for help, you're just slowing yourself down, and you should ask yourself, like, why would you want to slow yourself down? Like, we've never not had mentors, so I just think if you're serious about growth, you need to just have somebody help you go through it. Doing it yourself just takes too much time. And if you think, oh, it's expensive, it's way more expensive to make mistakes than it is to just, tell somebody that somebody could just tell you exactly how they already did it. I'd rather just tell me how to do it. So anyway, you should really be like wondering why you're not doing it more than anything.
Yeah, and there's two things to consider there. There's like ROI, like what's my return on investment? And everyone kind of knows that one. Like, okay, if I invest into something, how much am I going to get out of it? Well, first of all, like in terms of my program, obviously, because it's my podcast, I'll talk about that. But my program is fully guaranteed. If you do the work, you don't get the results of at least getting your money back, at least during your time with me. It's 100% money back guaranteed. And luckily, I've never had to do that because if you do the work, you're going to get the result. I don't know anyone else that offers that in any coaching space. The second thing is people need to consider is COI, which is the cost of inaction. How much is it costing you every month to not get help or to not get assistance? How much is it costing you in stress? How much is it costing you in missed revenue? I have this person, I'm not going to say the person's name, but they reach out to me every 2 months and say like, hey, how does your program work again? Hey, like, how much is it? Okay, what do you do for me? And reach out to me recently again after they saw a testimonial about one of my clients who added $147,000 in projected revenue over the next year by adding a bunch of new students. And every time he reached out to me, I asked me the same questions. And every time he goes, okay, I'll think about it, get back to you. It's like, how much money are you losing out on every single month by playing these games? Right. So, yeah, if you're ready to dive in, just reach out to me. Or if you're just like, hey, I'm thinking about it, not sure, no big deal. We'll do a discovery call. It takes 10 minutes to see if we're even a good fit for you. All right, but let's dive in. Less talking about
Let's
my
do it. Yeah,
program,
I
more
just
about
think if you're not doing it, just
how
think why. I think it's, a lot of times it's ego, and I love other people's success, so I don't get any commission for this. I think I should, but yes, I'm just kidding.
All right, cool. So you'll get commission in terms of barbecue chicken wings at Memorial
I'll
Walmart.
see you. I know your flight was delayed, but tomorrow, I think tomorrow I'm the one bringing like pizza, so I feel like you're getting commission,
Maybe you pay commission
but
to
I'm
me.
honored to do
Cool.
it.
All right, cool. So level one, level two, we already talked about. That's up to 30K. Remember, this episode is about level three and level four. So level three is the first one we're going to talk about. That's the scalar phase. So the revenue range for that is between 3K and 50K a month. And the focus for that is going to be building the machine and stop being the machine. Okay, so when I say that, what sticks out to you? Like, what do you feel like that actually means for a martial arts school?
I mean, so for us, we read it a long time in advance, so we're really probably doing it. But the book, The E Myth, which is the entrepreneurial myth, it's a pretty pivotal book for I think a lot of people. Where whether you're a franchise or not, the idea is you run it like a franchise, which means you're running it based on systems, and you are the concept in the book, which I think in the beginning sounds like, oh, that can never be true, but I think it is true. If the system can't be run by a 10-year-old following a checklist, the system's too hard. And you might say, well, oh, I've run in my karate school. No way a 10-year-old could do it. Baloney. If you're a pretty smart 10-year-old and you give them a list, we don't have it exactly this way now, but it's exactly what it was 25 years ago when we first started our growth. It would be like unlock door, walk in, push play on the answering machine, reply to those messages. And then it would be a script of how to reply. It was like the only way it wasn't done is that they chose not to do it. Like there was nothing to think about. It was then go vacuum, and it described how to vacuum. Then go clean bathroom, and it was like a list of how to do it. Make sure enough toilet paper, and enough was like a number, like two on, like in whatever, and like a roll, a full roll on, like every little piece of it. So, and you just got to document what you're already doing. Like if you think it's personality, and there are some schools that are truly, I believe, personality driven. If you're going to scale though, and keep in mind, scaling is not for everybody. Having a solid school that gets a good income for yourself, also a great idea. But if you want to scale, personality is always part of it. Character is always part of it. But most of what you do, you probably say the exact same words to the exact same people, or you say the exact same words to different people every day, right? Like somebody asks a question, how do I earn my bell? How do I enroll? I'm interested in classes, whatever. You probably say the same thing every time. So you would just document that stuff. And then once it's documented, you go from there. I don't know if I even answered your question, but I just said whatever I.
That's okay. I think that's good information. So yeah, we're talking about going from being in the machine to being creating the machine, right? Building the machine instead of being the machine. And what you said makes sense. It's like, okay, how do I if you haven't read the E-Myth, go get that. But B, how do I get out of, I guess, the grind of doing all the work? And one of the ways you do that is by creating like essentially what you were saying, I think is like SOPs. And if you're not familiar with that business term, it means a standing operating procedure for how to do everything in your business. What do you do when someone quits? Like, is it just, oh, however I feel in that moment, I can handle that, but no one else knows how to do it? Do you actually have a procedure you follow? Or is it just, oh, I go to the computer and hit cancel? Do you have a standing operator procedure from when someone becomes a lead through a Facebook ad to you calling them? What if they don't answer? What's the procedure after that? What if they do answer? What happens before their lesson appointments? What emails do they get? What texts do they get? What calls do they get? What about at their lesson? What about after they enroll? What's the standing operating procedure so that their first 100 days in your school is a really great experience for them so they don't drop off? But there needs to be an SOP for really everything. What SOPs do you think stick out to you in this phase? So we're in the scalar phase, 30 to 50K a month. What type of SOPs do you think you need to develop in order for you to build the machine and stop being the machine?
All right. Well, I have a couple side notes. One is last time we had guests on here, so I thought it was like a live studio audience. So I felt like that was awesome. So I don't know why we don't have any guests, but anyway, some audience. So that's one. Number two is for me personally, and I know what you mean, but I feel the phraseology for me is not ideal. Getting out of the grind. Like I started doing this because I truly like martial arts changed my life completely. I loved it. Like I went to class 6 days a week for years. Like I loved it. Like nobody forced me to go. If like one of my parents couldn't drive me there, I was like furious with them. How dare they not make me their number one priority? Like so when I was always teaching class, like there were definitely parts of it. Don't be confused that like I didn't like certain parts of it. But for the most part, I love being in the school. I love teaching class. So like getting out of the grind, I think if you're looking at it, and I know that's not really what you mean, but I just want to like, if somebody's like, oh man, got to get somebody else to do this. Maybe you're not in the right profession. I taught class this morning to the instructors. I'm like on like a teaching high right now for the next few hours. I've talked to some of the instructors like, oh, what did you like about that class? What didn't you like? Remember I said this, that was pretty good, right? And what about this? Like I'm all jazzed up about it. Do I like doing I don't know, the camp program from 8:30 to 3:30 every day? No. There's certain parts of it, but the idea is that like you're trying to get out of it. I don't think it's the right idea. I look at it, and I know that's not exactly how you mean it, but if somebody hears it that way, I think maybe they shouldn't be in the job. I look at it, and I got this fancy pencil here. Everything is a spiral, and my job is to spiral up and then pull people up with me. We literally have like 2 or 3 people, I think, that are with of all of our schools that are with outside of our organization. And I say that because I'm proud of it, and also partly because I feel we should learn how to get other people involved. But for some reason, we haven't done that. But I always looked at it like I need to improve my leadership skills, make sure the SOPs are strong. And then like I need to like if this person's like super good and they want to make an impact, I need to get out of the way so there's a room for them. Then I need to get out of the way of this person to make room for them. I need to get out of the way to make room for them. Not that I'm just like trying to get out of the grind and trying to like I'm just gonna be at home and like let me know how things go. Send me your stats. That is some of my job right now. But I also truly love any opportunity. Like anybody asked 2 weeks ago, one of the instructors called and said, hey, can you meet me in the morning? I want to work on this kata. It doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. I was like happy to do it. I like hanging out with him personally. I like doing the kata. I like every piece of it. I don't like when it interferes with golf. But other than that, I'm like delighted. So I think it's like the idea of like you want to like keep growing and then you pull people with you because they're watching you thinking, hey, I'd love to do this because they're seeing your lifestyle. And then as far as what SOPs, I think in the beginning, that was really your question. What SOPs, what systems? I think in the beginning, you need to be super careful not to invent the remote control with 1,000 buttons, which is what they say is like the problem with engineers is like they're so good at it. Like, what if it does this? What if it does that? And we all have probably a remote control that has like, 38 buttons on it. But the only buttons you really use are like the mute, the volume, and the channel. And maybe now like the guide and the record. Like you use like probably 6 buttons. But engineers, what is the, by the way, what is the Apple, Apple TV remote has like, I don't know, 6 or 7 buttons on it. That's it. It's like sleek. It's beautiful. Your SOP should be kind of the same way. Like you should start with, how do I enter the phone? How do I, get somebody enrolled? How do I teach a basic class, an intermediate class, an advanced class? Like the very basic stuff. I think I heard you talk earlier about like, what if somebody gets hurt? Like you have a way to document that, like very like block and tackle, like just basics. Like you're not like, how do I make a world-class demo team? Like, okay, well, that might be something interesting, but like you don't need that right now. So I think that would be that.
Got it. Okay, cool. And then, yeah, in terms of like the grind, obviously you're always going to grind if you're growing a business. I don't care how big or small your business is, right? But the grind needs to change over time, right? If you were still teaching the 3-year-old class every single day of your life, you probably wouldn't be able to scale to 30 plus schools,
Yes, sir.
right? So it needs to change, is what I mean. It's like you're not grinding, but the grind changes. I remember, like, for me personally, I have zero issue vacuuming or cleaning the toilets. It doesn't
I like
bother
it.
me.
I don't know about toilets, but I truly like vacuuming. It's like meditative to me.
But the one thing I didn't want to do anymore is I didn't want to answer the phone. The first time I was able to make sure I had someone who's responsible for that and was good at it, and we had a system that they could follow in terms of phone funnel. That was like a big moment of like freedom for me, where now I could use that time to set up more school programs or do more enrollments or train our staff to be better instructors, right? Because I didn't have that in the back of my mind of like, okay, I'm answering this phone all the time, right? Every single
I
time.
think that's a good example. For me, it's getting out of the grind almost sounds like I don't want to teach class. I don't want to talk to these students anymore. I think you still have to like love martial arts in general. Not that you love it every day, but you love it like in general. And like you enjoy taking a class. I know you take class a few days a week, still, and you enjoy teaching a class. That's what I mean by like you're not trying to like run away from it. You're just trying to grow yourself in a position, which I think is better than getting out of the grind. The grind sounds like it's like a 9 to 5 to me at least. That's like a 9 to 5 term that I do want to get out of. Where like with what we do, I feel like we're so fortunate that do like what we love. We're not trying to get out of it. We're just trying to position ourselves to grow where there's room for other people.
So let's talk about some key responsibilities you're going to need at the level three, the scalar phase. So typically here is where you're going to go from maybe some part-time employees to full-time employees. So for us, we like to have two employees at all of our schools as like full-time employees, a head instructor and a program director. Can you talk about like a little bit why we like to use, and by the way, there's plenty of schools that have one person run it too that does both those things. Maybe they'll have a smaller gross but a higher profit margin, and there's a lot of ways to skin a cat. Okay, there's also schools that have many employees. Usually they probably have too many, but let's just talk about like why exactly you specifically use that model for running a martial arts school.
For us, having two people, one was considered the head instructor, which is kind of like in charge of teaching class and really in charge of retention, like setting the vision for people to earn their black belts, become instructors. And the other person's job was to figure out a way to get more students in the door and then get them enrolled. Now, in reality, I don't think any of our schools are exactly like that because all of our people love teaching. So usually it's like the enrollment director teaches like, some classes during the week so they can get their like fix of teaching, which they love to do. And then a lot of times the head instructor is also like doing marketing during the day and going to school programs and setting stuff up like that using the codex system. So they're both kind of doing both, but we try to make, and they're both responsible for both, but one kind of like spearheads more than the other one. So if retention's bad, it's not like the enrollment director can go, that's not my problem. Like, okay, well, what's going on? Like, how do we improve that? Or if like there's not enough enrollments, there's no growth there. Also, the head instructor can't be like, well, I'm not the enrollment director. Like they're both responsible for everything, but they're both have like they're kind of like their focuses, but they both support each other. So, and we believe that you can have easily 300 active students with two good people doing it. And then, of course, we have leadership team, which are unpaid people that are learning how to teach class. And then we also have our certified instructors that are getting paid to teach class.
So how do you figure out when's the time to either hire a head instructor or a program director? And which one do you typically hire first?
Whoever shows up first, the typical time would be, well, if you go, I'm trying to like think back to 30 years ago, we didn't hire anybody for probably many years. We had a leadership team, and when they became super good at it, they would just go open up their own school. When I say they would open their own school, they open their own school with us, because, we presented the opportunity. They had the vision of it. We talked about it all the time. But I would pretty much now, we pretty much hire anybody who's awesome that wants to make a difference. And, we hire, if there's a school that has a head instructor, we're not hiring a second head instructor, right? Like there's already somebody doing that job. We'll hire them as like a certified instructor, which is like a part-time hourly thing. And if they want to do more, pretty much either go open up another school, or if the school's doing really well and the head instructor says, hey, I don't want to work all these hours, I'll split it with this person, but they're also splitting the salary. That's also fine with us. So when the people present themselves, because they went through for us certification, they went through leadership training, we invited them to everything. As soon as they're ready, we can only grow when everybody grows. That's the only way this works. So the only way you can scale is by more people wanting to do what you do. And so when that person presents itself, we try not to miss it. Like there's almost, I don't know if there's ever been a time where somebody's like, hey, I want to do this full time. We're like, hey, there's no positions. There almost is never a position, but we'll just invent one somewhere to do something to get them by until, either they open up another school or whatever. People are our majority of our asset is great people.
So how do you figure out though when you're talking to someone whether they'd be a better role at the head instructor, which is most of the stuff happening on the mat, or a program director, which is obviously a little bit more customer service focused and sales based. Once again, they both overlap. They both need to know each other's responsibilities. So a head instructor can't be like, oh, I don't know how to enroll someone. That's that person's job. Or the program director can't say, oh, I can't teach a drill because you're sick or something. We're not feeling well. I can't teach a class. They both need to know how to do both jobs, right? But obviously, they're usually going to be a little bit more proficient at one and usually just going to like one more than the other. So I'm talking to an instructor. How do I figure out exactly which place to put it?
I was well one of our schools. I'll just say this to because how awesome it is. The head instructor just his wife had a baby, so he's out. The enrollment director, the head instructor had 10 enrollments last week. He's the head instructor, not the enrollment. Doesn't do it every day, but he had it memorized anyway. And the point is, how great is it for the person who just had the baby that they can be out for however many weeks? It doesn't matter. Like they can enjoy their life, enjoy their new baby, like know that their partner's crushing it because they know how to do everything and just feel confident that everything is well. So anyway, that's just a wonderful way to live, I believe. How do I know which where they fall? Usually they tell us, so they'll go through, we invite them to all the different certifications we have. We invite them to all this kind of training. And usually you can kind of tell like people that are constantly helping people, like, you turn around and, the orange belt is helping the white belt. They're showing them how to tie their belt or they're helping them with their kicks or whatever. And they're that's kind of like the first line of like, hey, this person's a natural born leader. This person wants to help. And then as you talk to them, you invite them to different things, they'll tell you like, hey, I want to, I was thinking about, hey, I want to invite you to enrollment director certification. And they'll say like, oh, what does that mean? Oh, like, Mr. Brenner, that's what he does. And they'll either say like, oh, I would never want to do that. Or they'll be like, no, I always thought that seemed pretty awesome. Because they went through the process, right? Like they already went through it. So they'll be like, oh, I always thought that was awesome. Like you get new people involved, you help get them motivated. You're like, yeah, exactly. Okay, come to certification. Or they say, I don't want to sell anybody to anything. Like that's not who I am. I love teaching like the adults though. I hate those little kids, those 4-year-olds. Oh, they're scary. Not I hate, but like they're scary. But get the idea. And then I think they just kind of tell you based on you inviting them. It's not like, and then sometimes they're wrong and they discover like, wait a minute, I do like this or I do like that. But it's just talking to them. Again, you're not pulling yourself out of it. You're just in a new position. You're in like this leadership position of helping them discover their gifts.
Yeah, for us, I think it's a little bit easier because we can point to like the people that are already in place, right? Like, oh, like see, like this instructor, that's the head instructor. See this person, that's the program director. And if they've been part of the school for a little while, which usually they are, they'll kind of know what their different roles are and what they really enjoy and like. Like for me, I love teaching martial arts, but I actually was a program director for a really long time. Like that was my main thing, even though you probably would have thought I'd be a head instructor. I love being people's first impression when they walk in the door. And I love like enrolling people in martial arts. I think it's fun. I like sales. I don't mind following up with leads, right? I don't mind doing events. I don't mind going to schools to teach programs. It's fun for me to recruit new people and have big, massive months that like feel really great, right? Or have like really strong years. So you really have to figure out what the person, what they want and what they want their lifestyle to really look like, because there's pressure on both. There's pressure on the. And by the way, when you hear Professor Brenner here, my brother say enrollment director, it's interchangeable with program director. We kind of use the term both ways, but same idea. And would you agree with that?
Yes, sir. Of course.
Yeah. And then the other thing is like, okay, when sometimes they will switch or they'll start as a program director and they feel like, this is not for me, a little maybe too much sales, or I don't like the having quick chats or whatever. Okay, cool. Then they can move over to the head instructor side. And you got to find really what's right for them. So you're not putting a square peg in a round hole, right? So how do you, just for people who are listening, and I had, if you don't follow or you don't subscribe to the Black Belt Business newsletter, I already had a whole write up of exactly like how we do and how you can formalize your instructor compensation, like how to actually do like a payroll that makes sense for your school that can actually scale. But typically, just for people who haven't gotten on the Black Belt Business newsletter, and by the way, if you're not listening to this right now and
How
you're
much
not,
is it? How much is that later? It's like 99 a year or something.
it's
299 a
actually
year.
$1,000 a month for the newsletter. Now it's completely free. 3 days a week, I give you guys a 3-minute read of some strategy that you can use either for retention or for new students or for building your staff. I literally do it every week, and it's free. So just get on there. And if you send me a message, I'll send you a link to get on there. But anyway, so like, how do you figure out how much to pay them? Because, okay, I just hit 30K a month, or I just hit 40K a month. All right, I've been the full person doing everything. I teach the classes, I enroll people. I'm ready to bring on someone else, right? Not because I want to get out of it, like, oh, I'm done this thing, but because I want to give someone else opportunity and because I want to maybe grow my school, right? And maybe I want to have a little more free time so I can do the things I love doing in school, maybe the things, a little less of the things I don't want to do. Maybe I'm not as good at.
So you're by
So
yourself at the school. You're doing 30,000. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, so you're doing 30, maybe 40K a month, you're in the scalar phase. Like, okay, how do I compensate my instructors so it makes sense within the model of the school so it can still be profitable? Because a lot of people are nervous about paying someone else, right? They're like, oh, well, I make all this money. How am I going to pay someone else?
The traditional way that we do it is once you hit 30,000, the salary or the employee compensation or the team compensation is 30% of whatever the number is, 30,000 and above. So 30,000 would be, like 9,000, 35,000 would be whatever that number is. And then it's what we do most of the time is most of our, not almost all of our people are full time. So those two people just kind of split it. They pay any part time instructors out of it, then whatever's left over, they just split. Now, if I was by myself and I built a school for a couple of years and I could hire somebody part time. They just come in at night to do enrollments. Maybe I would do that because I wanted to save more money for myself. If I thought, oh my God, this person's a rock star, they make, X number of dollars a year right now, I would ask them, like, hey, could you make less? Is that possible for you? And we're pretty upfront. We're completely upfront about it. And if you can, how much? And then like we'd make a plan up of how to get them back to their where they were and above. If I could, but if the person said, no, man, I can't make any less, but I knew they were a rock star, like I knew it was going to be great and I could afford to, and keep in mind, afford to is certainly a tricky term because sometimes you think you can, sometimes you think you can't. But, if I knew my expenses and I was like, all right, I can handle this for a couple months and they're going to be our growth, then I would hire them. I'd pay them more than I would pay me. When we first started, my business partner had a house going through divorce with two children, and I lived at home where, I get to eat for free at home and I had no rent or no mortgage or anything else. So whatever we made the first 2 years, that was her salary. I got zero of it because that's what she needed, period. Like, and that was fine. My point is like, kind of do what you got to do. In the ideal world, it's the 30% idea. But if it's not, then, I would give up more money to someone who I thought was going to grow everything. And 6 months later, all of a sudden, like now we're both making more. And there's people in the industry that I've talked to that have done the same thing where, hey, I'm only making 50. This guy needs 40. Wait, I'm going to tell him I'll make 10,000 a year now. But 2 months later, they're both making 80 because this person's awesome. And if you have the right partner, it's not addition, it's multiplication. It's not like, oh, we'll just do this much better. It sometimes can be pretty explosive.
Yeah, one A player is worth like 20 B players.
Without a doubt.
So, okay. So, and to be clear for people who are listening, the 30% is the 30% of the monthly gross revenue. So, if it's $30,000, we look to have our payroll bucket be $9,000 as an example. Obviously, the bigger the more revenue it is, the bigger the bucket, which means that the instructors are going to make more money. So, the reason why I like it is because I have direct control of how much money I make every month. So if I get more enrollments, and we keep more students, and our monthly recurring revenue grows every month, I make more money, right? And it's good for them because they get a portion of the gross revenue. They don't have to worry about expenses or how much money we paid on Facebook ads or how big our electric bill was or how much we paid for air conditioning, right? But the full payroll has to be that 30% bucket. So it can't be like, oh, this person gets, these two people get 30%, but then a bunch of part-time people make $1,000, $2,000, and it's past 30%. No, the entire payroll bucket is 30%. Bigger the pie, the bigger their slice is going to be. So we do revenue share, and it's kind of like being a business owner without all the headache, without all the expenses.
Yeah,
So
and
you
we treat
know,
everyone like, so we kind of have two levels of partnership, right? Like that level, which everything you described. And then if they're an equity partner, they do care about turning the air conditioner off and, like, hey, how much is our Pico bill this month? Or how much is our T-Mobile bill? Or how much is our, internet? They care about all that because now they're getting a percentage of the profit as well. So we always believe in like, we win when we win.
hmm. Okay, cool. So let's go over one of the other responsibilities. We have two more I want to go into. The next one is dialing in retention and pricing for profitability. Okay, so I think it's easy to keep your students when you're not easy, but easier when you're under 30K a month because generally you're not going to have 300 students at that mark, right? Generally you're going to have less, and like they're going to get more of your attention. But as you hire people and it relies less on you and more on the team, and retention can usually drop. You have more people quit, because you're giving them less attention, right? If you have 50 students, they say, no one ever quits. Yeah, because they get to see you and talk to you every single time, and you give them your heart and energy. But like, how do you get your staff to do it so you can actually scale, right? So what do we do when you think dialing in retention, or dialing in pricing for profitability? I guess we'll start with retention. What do you feel like are the biggest movers for your team and your staff to dial in their retention at this point so they can have strong monthly recurring revenue and not just have one blip like a great month, but keep on building over time?
It's exactly what you just said, just done more. So what we talk about is you need to have connection, especially today. Everybody wants human connection. So connection with your students and their parents. Just like when you had your 50 students, your connection was strong because there wasn't that many people there. You just have to have that same experience. You have to figure out how to like orchestrate that same experience with more people, which is just you working. I would say, I don't know if it's harder or just smarter, like, making sure you get to everybody, or you have a team that like helps get to everybody. And then sometimes you're adding in, you don't want to pile on systems. Sometimes we do that, and I think it's a mistake. But like, if you used to write 3 postcards a week to, tell people they were doing a great job, now you write 6, right? Like, so it's like some of it is just adding what you were doing before or multiplying. And so the first part is connection, and the second part is progress. I take tons of classes. I need someone to tell me I'm making progress. In karate, you have like stripes and belts, but you also need somebody to tell you like, hey, do you remember when you couldn't do that kick that high, or your punches weren't that strong, or whatever? Like, remember when you couldn't do any push-ups and now you just popped out 20? Sometimes people just take for granted. So you need to like see, feel, experience the progress, which is the instructor's job, is to kind of point it out to the students and their parents. Like sometimes the parents only, your kid is like not the most athletic kid. Maybe he's like, just average. It's fine. But like he's standing next to this kid who is, a Division I athlete. Well, it's like, of course your child's going to look not that great because this other kid is like flexible and athletic and can jump real high and like everything's like awesome. So of course you're always going to think, oh, my kid's things. They forget that again, their child couldn't do blank and now is doing great. So it's like pointing out like their own, everybody's in their own race. And I know logically everybody knows they're in their own race, but when you're standing next to someone who's way more athletic, sometimes they're thinking to yourself, oh my God, maybe I need to do something else. Like I'm not good at this. You like forget that you actually have grown and you have improved. So connection, feeling like you're part of the tribe, progress, like, hey, I'm growing here. Like whether you're taking a dance class or a golf lesson or a swim lesson, I want to know that if I'm investing my time and my money, I'm getting better at this. And sometimes as a person doing it, you don't realize it. So the instructor's job is both of those.
Okay, so I'm running a school, I hire an instructor, and I'm like, hey, I want correction and I want progress.
Connection.
Connection, and I want
But
progress.
correction is part of that, right? Like if I just say great job all the time, like I don't, like when I'm swinging, like I've taken lessons on golf courses where like the instructors keep saying great job. And I'm like, do you see where the ball's going? Like, how is this a great job? Like, this is not a great job. So like just saying great job does not get you anywhere. Correction is part of it.
So then how do you get your instructors to actually do that? Like, okay, I understand that theory, but I have a new instructor. How do I actually get them to make sure they're having a connection with the students or building a connection and that they're showing students how much they're progressing? What do I actually do to train them to actually make that happen?
Some of that is systems, and a lot of that is culture. So if your instructors are from your school, if you've done all that, every time they walk in, well, let's say we'll do the 3-touch rule, like name, appropriate touch, and what's the other one? Eye contact. Name, eye contact, and appropriate touch, right? So the student's been there for 3 months. Every time they walk in the door, you say, hey, Mr. Matthew, Mr. Brenner. Oh, Mrs. Brenner, it's great to see you. Oh, how's the new card? Are you loving it? Is there anything you don't like about it? Like you're having like a little conversation with them for 30 seconds. You're saying, hey, Mr. Matthew, how'd your baseball game go last week? Oh, it was great, sir. And like they're saying sir and ma'am, and you're doing all that. And then during class, like, hey, I need him to work on his front kicks, and you're doing all that. Well, then you become an instructor. Well, how else would you treat people? You saw me do it for 3 months. That's just the culture of it, right? So if there's no way to like there's no way you're going to execute good culture. You're going to get your instructor to do it if you didn't do it, right? Like most instructors teach like their instructor. Then how do you have them level it up? Like things like stand by the front door and ask when your next class is, or notice that the mom or dad doesn't look so thrilled, and like how to walk over and have that conversation, or a progress check or any of that. We do, of course, a micro meeting leadership team every week with all of our schools. They all do it on their own. We do our certifications. A lot of our schools do once a quarter to go over the curriculum. But the main part of it is if you have a good instructor to begin with, everybody's going to follow suit. Like they're going to see it happening, and that's just the culture of it.
Okay, so the culture of building connection and giving correction, and obviously leading by example is going to be the best way to do that. But also having
I would say it's culture. They say beats, I forget what it is. Like culture beats systems every day of the week. Like if the culture is good and that's all happening, it's going to naturally happen. Well, some people will be better at it than others, of course. But if you're not doing it, you're just going to go like teach them how to do it. So you tell them like, hey, whenever he walks in, hey team, whenever he walks in, where you got to say hi to him. But you stand on the mat and talk to your friend and never say hi to a single person. Well, everybody's going to huddle up in the corner and talk to their best buddies, like the instructors. But if you're always like teaching class, saying hi to moms and dads, or you're standing by the front door, like that. But if you're hiding in the office, like, oh, I'm doing paperwork, that's what everybody's going to want to do, right? Like that's what they're naturally going to do. It's got to be something in my throat. You doing it, they're going to do it, and then you're going to teach like the more refined. You're going to teach them how to be maybe better at it. Like, hey, if a parent says this, what do I say about that? Because they might be like off guard, but the general culture is you doing it.
Okay, that brings me to the next part is like, okay, for staff development for 30K to 50K a month, what do we, and you mentioned it before, like meetings. So how do you structure your meeting or your staff training at this level?
Every week there's a 15-minute what we call micro meeting. We work on whatever I think is missing in the class. So there's not enough PCP, there's not enough spotlighting, highlighting. And then we also, depending on like how comfortable the instructor is, either they're doing like John Maxwell type tips, like the 21 laws. Like each week there's another law we just rotate through. Or the other thing we do is if like, let's say you're listening to a Stoic podcast, we'll still do the teaching tips. But if I'm super into Stoicism for that like period in my life, I might be teaching that instead of the John Maxwell stuff because I'm super passionate about it right now. I'm super into it. Like whatever I'm working on for myself personally, that's usually what I wind up teaching because I'm just into it. So I'm passionate about it at that moment. If I have nothing to do that week, of course I'll do it. Or if I'm into the John, we did the John Maxwell stuff because we were super in the John Maxwell then. And now we have it all systematized. And right now we're 21 weeks and you just rotate through every 21 weeks repeats. So that's fine. But my point of it is if you're like, that doesn't really ring for me, like I'm not into John Maxwell, like, maybe you're into the habit, whatever that habits book is, like you would just teach that. Like you're just teaching them how to be like better at being human pretty much, along with teaching tips. And that's a 15-minute meeting and they role play.
Yeah, just obviously having really good personal development and sharing what you learn. And there's some teachers that are great at that, like, and they're going to want to be like you, which means they're going to want to be an instructor like you. And
Right,
if
right,
you
right.
raise your lid, you get better at being an instructor like that, and they see you as a standard of a way they could live. That's how you grow followers, right? Or a following.
Yeah,
Is
of
people
course.
wanting to be like you, right? So, which brings me to the next part of like, okay, so you're at the 30 to 50K a month. Now, one of the other skills you're going to want to master. So we have, when I say master, obviously it's like evolving how you master something. You never get perfect at it, but you want to be improving. So we talked about staff development. We talked about leading versus doing. The other thing we want to talk about is metrics tracking. So you should track your metrics from the beginning. But what do you really need to like fine tune? You're 30 to 50K a month, you're in the scalar phase. What metrics you need to be like zoomed in on to make sure your school is running profitably and that you can scale to level 4 of the CEO phase?
The basics are just back to the basics. You're just doing the blocking and tackling, how to answer the phone, all the stuff you just talked about, how to do an enrollment, conference. And then I think like the next, you're just doing that stuff again, but what you're asking yourself is how good is your training for your people? And if your people are like, oh, none of them are as good as me, that might be true. But if they are still really good, then you're doing great training them.
Yeah, let's talk about which metrics you want to.
Like, I mean, the metrics in general are, of course, are phone call to appointment, appointment to first lesson to second lesson to enrollment, or first lesson to enrollment, I guess. Retention in general, like what it is every month without lying to yourself, like, oh, they're coming back. For us, if they haven't been there in 2 weeks or they stop paying, they're no longer a student, period. They say they're coming back, you can add them back in later, but for right now, they're not coming. So, sometimes people are saying like, oh, my retention's 3%. It's really great. It's amazing. But, every twice a year, the retention's 18%. And, oh, that was just a bad month, but it's really 3. It's not really 3. It's an additional, it's like 6 or 7%. You're just pretending it's some other thing. So like being honest with yourself about that. And I want to add one more thing. And I do think we should have another cliffhanger here. It's 43 minutes. I think when you get to 30 or 50, you're doing pretty great, and you should do a life check to see if you really want to grow. And if you don't want to grow, like, hey, I'm happy where I am, you should also ask yourself why. Are you like truly in a great place for yourself and like everything is popping, or you're just scared to reach out for help? And again, like your ego is just like preventing you from like maybe like realizing, like, oh, I'm good at 40. Yeah, I don't need any more than that. But really, you're just nervous or scared to get help, because to go from 40 to 50, you might not have that skill set. So then you're just scared you're going to, like you'll feel like a failure, even though if you keep doing it, you'll eventually grow into it. You will get to your 50. Anyway, I think doing a self check. Your question was, what are the metrics? The metrics are all the things I just said, things that we all keep track
And
of.
I can add into that too, because I know for you, you don't are not great at tracking the numbers like that because you don't love that part of it. So one of the things you did is you hired someone on your team, you found the right person, right? Like Sensei Michael, who's like really good at that and loves doing that and loves looking at all the specific numbers, right? So you're like very much the vision guy and you've hired other people that can fill in some of those spots. Just like if you're not great at working with 4-year-olds, but you want them in your school, or 5-year-olds, you'd hire an instructor that's actually really good at that, right? Loves working with 5-year-olds or likes answering the phone. So I'm gonna go over it for people that are listening because when I asked you that, I started to hear your answer. I'm like, oh god, I gotta make sure I'm a little more specific here. Because anyone who knows or who reads the Black Belt Business newsletter is I like to be talk about most about strategy, not have like generic strategy, like have like really focused. One of the things that I love is like we changed this culture a couple of years ago. Instead of talking about like our stats, we like to call them our vitals. Why do we like to call it our vitals? Because it's the lifeblood, it's the life support of our business. If we don't have good vitals, then the business is not healthy. Okay, so we like to call it our vitals. It's just like a better word to use with your staff, I think. So let's talk about some vitals. And I'm going to read from the sheet that this is what we use to actually track. Okay, so you probably don't have it up in front of you, but I have the sheet in front of me of the vitals that we track across all the locations in one spreadsheet. So I'll go over the couple things. Like first of all, like how many trials do you have? So whether it's a paid trial or a free trial, how many trials did you actually get set up? How many leads did you get? And the leads need to be separated from paid leads. Maybe you run a Facebook ad or Google ads or whatever. And how many leads are coming just from your website, or how many leads are coming from organic? Okay, organic would be you didn't pay for them. So maybe you did a school program or a daycare program through the Triangle Codex, which is what I teach, or you go through a summer camp, which is what I teach people to do during the summertime, how to go and recruit new students from other summer camps and bring them into your school. They can still go to that summer camp, but when they're not an actual camp. So your leads have to be separated about where the source is, okay, especially if you want to scale, because you might notice, oh, my Facebook leads are rocking right now, but my organic isn't doing well. Or we're getting a lot of new organic students through schools, but we're really doing bad at the younger kids class, the 4 and 5-year-olds. So how do we fill that up? So you really want to narrow that down so you understand exactly where to put effort. But you're going to have your leads, you're going to have that obviously enrollments. You want to see how many equipment packs you're selling. So like how much gear or retail. For us, we like to sell an equipment pack when people first join. That's when they're most excited. That way they can get all their gear and they get very excited about class. Just like if you ever sign up for golf, when you go golfing, you're going to need like extra tees and extra golf balls and a golf shirt and golf cleats and a glove and all this stuff. And it's not like you're annoyed that you have to go buy it. It's like, ooh, this is my fun stuff. Look at my new clubs, right? So the same thing when people join martial arts, right? Like you want to sell an equipment pack. I think a lot of times people get nervous about selling an equipment pack because they don't want to make it cost more. But like literally sign up for any sport, sign up for baseball. You're gonna need gloves and shin guard and cleats and a cup and a bat, and you're gonna need all that stuff. So it's normal.
Wait,
Okay.
hold on. If you're going to use a golf analogy, I'm going to start talking about football. Is that how you want to go on this?
Wait, did I said all the right golf items? I was
You
like, I
did, you
never.
did, you did, you did. Great job. I would say I would talk about the World Series of football. So yeah, great.
I feel like I know more. I say I know as much about golf, maybe a little more about golf than you know about football. Maybe a little more, only because I hear you talk about
I
golf.
did good last week about the Joe Burrows or what Burrows like
Joe Burrow,
analogy. I thought I answered it pretty well. I was
the
pretty
football
proud of
analogy. Yeah. Okay. So the other thing you want to track is active count. So how many students do you actually have who are active? I'll let you answer this. Like, how do you distinguish whether someone's an active student or a non-active student?
it. If they haven't been in class the last 2 weeks or they stopped paying, they're not active. Period.
Right. So
I mean, sometimes people are coming to class aren't paying, like they're on like like whatever, they fell through hard times or whatever. We always have them still come to class. We're like, all right, well, we get you're going through a challenge. Let's retalk every month, but like keep coming. Of course, we see is there some that you could afford, but like at the end of the day, we'll let them do what they need to do. But we never let anybody leave for that reason. Or if they stop coming to class for 2 weeks, we don't care what's happening. They're even if they're still paying, they quit.
Yeah, it's amazing. I remember one of the times you brought me to a martial arts school we were visiting, and they claimed to have like 400 active students. And we're like, wow, that's incredible. We're watching class. I don't remember where this was, so I wouldn't be exposing anyone. And we're watching class, and there's like 4 kids in the first class, 9 kids in the next class, 6 kids in the next class, 7 to 10 adults. I'm like, how is it possible that they have 400 active students? Like,
Well,
there's
the
no
other day is when
one.
everybody comes.
The other day, right? Yeah, no one came tonight, right? It's all the other day. Oh my God. And what we did was we looked in the card box. This is before people did, digital attendance. And like there was a bazillion cards that had not been marked in 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years. So he was thinking that there was active students, but they really were not. He was just fooling himself. So active students for us is if you didn't come in the last 2 weeks or you weren't paying like one of those two things, you're no longer active, you're considered to quit. We put you back, great. But if people don't come from, and unless you know specifically about this person, like they're away on 2 weeks on this vacation, they're coming back this day. Okay, they come back that day, great. But if they don't show up a week after that, like they're done.
So real
You're,
fast, I know we use the word quit. If you want to take more responsibility, I like to say they fired me. Because then I'm really trying to figure out why I got fired instead of like they made a choice to quit. No, I didn't show enough value. They fired me.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. The other thing we track is student value. Like how much does how much is the value of each student per month? And this is where I really get caught in the weeds. Like I talk to a lot of martial arts school owners, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I have 240 students." I'm like, amazing. And then they'll tell me their gross revenue, and then I'll look at how much their student value is, and I'll be like $54 a month, and I'm like, what do you either A, you don't have that many students because your active count is just inaccurate, or B, you're charging way less than you should, or C, you're just not charging certain people, and I don't know what's happening, but like the numbers are off. And there's a lot more numbers you can do, but I would say the ones I went over in terms of vitals at this phase is probably good enough. As you get more sophisticated, like you get to the CEO phase, you might want to look at like lifetime student value, average month training, which month do students quit, year to year growth. So like, okay, how well did you do in May in 2025 versus May in 2024, 2023? And returns and upgrades or refunds, stuff like that. But I think the basics really like trials, enrollments, leads, split up a lead source, quits, obviously gross revenue. I don't think I went over that one. Obviously, active count and student value are probably the biggest vitals that you're going to want to track to this point. So that's going to be level 3 of the scalar phase. Is there anything else you feel like I missed or you want to go over that you think people should know?
I'm not sure if it's even on our stat sheet. I think it's not. But as an owner, you should always know your net. Gross is kind of a meaningless number. Knowing your net is the only number that probably matters. And never be afraid of, of making money. I think Chris Rappold taught me this phrase that I always thought was so great. It was receiving most times is evidence of giving. So, if you're doing more well, if you're making more money, it's probably because you're helping more people, right? So it's you should be like proud of that, not somehow like money's evil or something. So receiving is evidence of giving. Is it always the case? No, but like in our culture, in our world, that's how we look at it. Like if I can help, the phrase from Zig Ziglar, I can have everything in life I want if I can help enough other people get what they want. So I'm always looking out, whether it's our instructors or our students, how do I help them reach their goals? And by me doing that, selfishly or unselfishly, if I help them reach their goals, it doesn't matter what my motivation is, I reach my goals, period. So the more I can help, the more I get, period. In financial and just the good feelings. Can we make this a cliffhanger? It's been 52 minutes. Number one, I'm starving. Number two, I have like
Why
15
don't we
texts.
eat lunch before
Like
our
literally, like
podcast?
I have all this anxiety.
Why do you eat lunch before our podcast? Why do you get on here always hungry?
I teach class, then I walk home to get my steps, and we actually go to lunch. But I don't like to eat till after 12, and the podcast is always at 12:15. So I'm like, all right, I'll just wait. And then I came home and I did eat a banana. So I did eat that, but now I also have like 15 text messages, all of which cause me anxiety to like try and be done with.
Yeah, I think what you should do, and I think would be helpful, is like take time where you don't look at your phone during the day. Because I feel like you're always anxious by your phone. And if someone doesn't respond in 10 minutes, you're like, they must hate me and this is
I don't think they
terrible.
must hate me. I'm mad at them because I'm trying to get a job done. And it's mostly because I don't want to forget.
Well, thank you so much for listening today. We're gonna have another part 3 of this, which will be level 4, the CEO phase. Sorry, we wanted to get both in today, but we dove deep into a lot of stuff that we feel like is helpful.
Yeah.
So we'll do another part part of this one, they'll have part 3 where we'll go over level 4, the CEO phase of 50K to 83K. And then maybe we'll have a bonus episode after that, or if we have time, we'll do bonus level 5, which is over $1 million a year. So thank you so much for listening. My name is Matthew Brenner with the Black Belt Business Podcast. If you want help for growing your martial arts school organically, which is through what I call the Triangle Codex, a 3-step system to grow your students through local schools, daycares, and businesses. I'll show you how to do it. I'll show you how my clients, you can see different case studies of how they've grown over 100K in projected revenue each year based on solely getting new students through organic strategies. So that means not relying on Facebook ads. They run Facebook ads, yes, but this is students directly from their efforts. So if that's something you want to do, send me a DM at blackbeltbrenner1 or email me, matthew@wdojo.com. Comment any questions you have below. We'll answer them. Professor Brenner, thank you so much for coming on here. We'll do our next one next week. Bye, guys.
Love it. See you soon.